One day, without warning, you stop texting first. You stop explaining your heart to someone who keeps acting confused. You stop trying to fix a distance you did not create. And that is when everything changes. Because the moment you become quiet, truly quiet, not cold, not bitter, just done with chasing, your silence starts saying what your words never could. Most people think pulling away makes you easy to forget. But with an avoidant, the opposite often happens. The more peaceful you become, the louder your absence feels inside them. They may not show it right away. They may act fine. They may disappear into work, routines, distractions, or pride. But deep down, something starts moving. Something uncomfortable. Something real. Stay with me, because this is where the story turns. What happens when a woman stops begging for closeness and starts choosing herself? What happens when the person they expected to keep waiting suddenly walks in the other direction with calm in her eyes? That is the moment their control begins to crack. That is the moment your energy becomes unforgettable. And if you have ever loved someone who kept stepping back while you kept stepping forward, this will hit hard. Because sometimes the strongest move is not proving your love. Sometimes the strongest move is becoming silent enough for them to finally hear what they lost. And once that silence enters their world, it does not leave easily. It lingers, it follows them, it grows in the quiet. An avoidant often builds life around one hidden belief. Closeness is risky. Love feels heavy. Connection feels dangerous because it can lead to pain, loss, pressure, or being seen too deeply. So when emotions rise, they pull back. They create space. They become harder to reach. Not always because they do not care, but because care feels too intense for the walls they built years ago. That is why chasing almost never works. The more you push for answers, the more they feel the need to protect themselves with distance. But when you stop chasing, something new enters the dynamic. You are no longer feeding the pattern. You are no longer giving them the comfort of knowing you will stay available while they sort through confusion on your heart. And that shift is powerful. It does not need a speech. It does not need a final dramatic goodbye. It just needs your energy to return to you. Suddenly, they are not the one setting the pace anymore. They cannot predict your next move. They cannot rely on your loyalty being stretched forever. That uncertainty begins to wake up emotions they usually keep buried. This is not a game. It is not manipulation. It is self-respect. And self-respect changes the whole atmosphere. When you quietly step back, you hold up a mirror. They start feeling the same distance they once used for protection, but now it is coming from your side. Now they have to sit inside it. And for someone who is used to staying in control, that can feel deeply unsettling. Watch closely, because this is where their inner world starts getting louder than their outward silence. Avoidants are often used to a familiar emotional script. They pull away. The other person notices. The other person reaches out more. The other person tries harder, explains more, loves louder, waits longer. That pattern gives them a strange kind of safety, because even while creating distance, they still feel wanted, they still feel central, they still feel that if things ever get too quiet, they can count on your pursuit to fill the space. But when you stop doing that, the script breaks. There is no emotional noise to hide behind, no more repeated proof of your devotion arriving on demand, no more desperate energy making them feel secure while they stay unavailable. That is when they start to feel something they dislike very much. Loss of control. They cannot read you the same way. They cannot assume your heart will keep standing at the same door. And that lack of certainty touches something deeper than ego. It touches fear. Because now they have to face the possibility that you are really slipping away, not through anger, not through chaos, but through peace. And peace is hard to fight. Anger gives them something to react to. Drama gives them something to justify, but peace leaves them alone with themselves. It forces reflection. It creates questions. Why did she stop trying? Is she done? Has she healed? Did I push too far this time? Keep listening, because those quiet questions often become louder than any argument ever could. What they once saw as freedom begins to feel strangely empty, and that emptiness starts carrying your name in ways they never expected. When your attention is no longer focused on fixing them, it begins to come back to you. That is where your real power rises, your energy changes, your face softens, your mind clears, your body relaxes. You stop waking up every day wondering what they feel and start remembering what you feel. You stop trying to decode mixed signals and start honoring clear truth. This is why emotional detachment feels so strong. It is not about pretending not to care. It is about caring and still choosing your dignity. It is about loving someone and still refusing to abandon yourself for a connection that keeps hurting you. And that kind of strength does something unexpected. It becomes deeply magnetic. An avoidant may not respond to pressure, but they feel the absence of it. They feel it when your messages stop carrying hidden pain. They feel it when your silence is calm instead of waiting. They feel it when your life begins moving without checking if they are keeping up. That shift can make them think about you more, not less, because now you are no longer easy to place in the old emotional pattern. You are different. You are no longer chasing their approval or asking to be chosen, and that difference makes them curious. It makes them reflect. It makes them miss what they once treated like something that would always remain available. Do not miss this part. The very moment you stop trying to pull love out of them is often the moment they start feeling the weight of your absence. Not because they suddenly changed overnight, but because your peace forces them to notice what your effort used to hide. When you truly let go, a deep psychological shift begins. Their system depends on predictability, predictable distance, predictable access to you, predictable chances to return when convenient and still find the door half open. But real letting go takes that away. You stop holding the rope. You stop trying to make sense of every cold moment. You stop offering emotional support to someone who only takes it when it is safe for them. And that creates a void they were not ready for. At first, they may act unaffected. Sometimes they even feel relief in the beginning, but that relief often fades once the silence stretches, because slowly, the emotional space you once filled becomes impossible to ignore. The good morning messages, the softness in your tone, the patience they never fully appreciated, the emotional steadiness they could lean on without admitting they needed it. All of that leaves an imprint, and when it is gone, the mind begins to circle back. They start wondering what changed in you. They start replaying little moments they brushed past before. They start asking the questions they avoided when your love was still close enough to feel safe. Why does she seem lighter without me? Why does that bother me? Why do I miss what I kept resisting? This is where quiet panic can begin. Not loud panic. Not dramatic panic. The kind that hides behind a normal face while the inner world gets restless. Because when someone you thought would keep waiting finally releases you, it does not just create distance, it creates consequence. And consequence has a way of reaching places excuses never can. Then comes the reflection they tried to postpone. When you are gone, there is no emotional cushion left between them and their own mind. No one is reaching in with warmth every time they get overwhelmed. No one is smoothing over the tension they created. No one is translating their silence into hope. That is when the past starts echoing. They remember conversations they once avoided. They remember the look in your eyes when you were trying to stay patient. They remember how safe your care felt even when they could not fully receive it. Reflection rarely arrives all at once. It builds, quietly, a memory while driving, a feeling in the middle of the night, a strange emptiness after meeting someone new who feels loud, rushed, or shallow compared to the peace you carried. This is the part many people do not see. Avoidance does not erase feeling, it delays it. The emotions they buried during the relationship often rise after the distance becomes real. Without your steady presence, their inner noise gets louder. Regret mixes with longing, curiosity mixes with guilt, and the freedom they once fought for starts feeling less like freedom and more like absence. Stay with this, because it matters. What they are missing is not just attention, it is the emotional stability you brought into a life that often felt crowded with unspoken fear. They may try to distract themselves. New people, more work, more independence, more motion. But inner truth has a stubborn way of returning, and when it returns, it often carries one painful realization. You were never the problem. You were the mirror showing them what they were afraid to face in themselves. There is something especially powerful about a woman who knows her worth and does not argue to prove it. That kind of energy leaves a mark. When your actions show that your peace is not negotiable, it creates a memory that stays long after words fade. An avoidant may resist strength at first, but deep down, they feel it. They recognize when someone cannot be bent by inconsistency. They notice when love is offered with dignity instead of desperation. And that matters because many people fold themselves in half trying to keep a fading connection alive. But when you do not fold, when you stay rooted in self-respect, you interrupt the pattern. You show them your love is real, but not cheap, deep, but not self-destructive, open, but not endless intolerance. That is unforgettable. Boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. They say, I care, but I will not keep shrinking to fit your fears. I understand pain, but I will not become a home for your avoidance. I love deeply, but I also know when love is no longer being met with equal effort. And for someone who expected you to bend a little more, wait a little longer, explain a little further, your refusal to do that can hit harder than any emotional speech, because now they are looking at someone they can no longer influence through distance alone. They are looking at someone who stayed kind but became unavailable to half love. And that kind of quiet strength has a way of staying in the memory far longer than emotional chaos ever does. Most avoidants carry a hidden fear that love will turn into pressure, that closeness will slowly become a trap, that needing someone means losing freedom. So when they feel deeply, they often create distance to escape the intensity. But when you let go without becoming bitter, you challenge that whole belief. You show them that love does not have to suffocate. You show them that care can be gentle, boundaries can be healthy, and detachment can come from maturity, not revenge. This confuses them at first. They are more familiar with people reacting through anger, panic, or emotional collapse. They understand that language. It fits their old map. But your calm does not. Your grace does not. Your ability to walk away while still holding your head high creates a new image in their mind. Suddenly, you are no longer just someone who loved them. You are someone who loved them and still chose herself. That difference matters. It raises your value in their eyes because it proves you were never weak, you were patient, and there is a huge difference. This is why many avoidants start to admire what they could not manage when they had it. They see your steadiness, your emotional discipline, your refusal to lose yourself in a cycle that kept taking more than it gave, and somewhere inside, even if they never say it, they begin comparing that strength to their own fear. That comparison stays with them. It follows them into future conversations, future relationships, future lonely nights. Because once they have seen someone choose love without abandoning self-respect, it becomes harder to forget what real emotional maturity looked like standing right in front of them. Your peace becomes their chaos. That is one of the deepest truths in this dynamic. The moment you stop reacting, stop over-explaining, stop trying to close every emotional gap they open, something shifts inside them. They are often used to tension. Tension gives them room to pull away and feel justified. Tension creates noise they can hide behind. But when you respond with stillness, their old strategy has nowhere to land. Your calm exposes their restlessness. Your silence reveals their inner noise. They may have once believed distance made them safe, but now that same distance starts feeling heavy because it is no longer a space they control. It is a space you accepted, and acceptance is powerful. At first, they may mistake your calm for indifference, but over time, if the connection was real, they start seeing it for what it is. Strength, a deep kind of strength that does not need to announce itself. You are not fighting for their attention anymore. You are not begging for clarity. You are not trying to rescue the relationship from the very person withdrawing from it. And when that realization lands, they begin to feel the imbalance inside themselves. Why does her peace disturb me? Why do I think about her more now that she is no longer reaching? Why does every new connection feel louder and less real? This is the quiet unraveling. The part that happens behind closed doors and unread messages, the part where they begin to understand that your calm was never weakness, it was emotional power, and now that it is gone from their daily life, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Over time, your absence starts to echo in ordinary moments, a song, a place, a long evening, a hard day, with no one who feels safe enough to talk to. They remember how your presence never demanded too much, never tried to trap them, never asked for perfection. Only honesty, effort, and emotional safety. That memory becomes sharper when life feels cold or noisy, because what you offered was not chaos disguised as passion, it was peace. And peace is rare. Once they lose it, they begin seeing how rare it really was. Every new person may look exciting for a moment, but if the depth is missing, if the steadiness is missing, if the emotional calm is missing, your memory returns stronger. Not because you were flawless, but because what you carried felt real. You represented a balance they could not hold on to, a closeness that did not force, a love that did not scream, a softness that stayed grounded, and for an avoidant, that can become haunting in the most quiet way. This is why emotional independence is so powerful. The moment you stop needing validation from the person who kept withholding it, you become difficult to replace in their mind. You are no longer attached to their choices, you are centered in your own. And that emotional independence creates mystery. They cannot easily understand it because they expected heartbreak to make you chase harder, not heal deeper. They expected pain to make you reach again, not become stronger. So they keep thinking, they keep comparing, they keep revisiting the version of you they lost by not knowing how to stay present when it mattered. And here is what makes that mystery so lasting. You did not collapse. You did not turn your whole life into a reaction to their distance. You kept growing. You kept healing. You kept becoming more steady, more grounded, more whole. That alone can deeply affect someone stuck in old avoidant patterns, because now there is a clear contrast between your path and theirs. You moved toward peace. They may still be moving in circles. You learned how to hold pain without letting it define you. They may still be running from their own emotions and calling it freedom. That comparison can quietly shake them. They begin to notice that while you found balance, they remain trapped in the same cycle of closeness, fear, distance, and regret. That is when admiration and sadness often mix together. They may think of your strength when life feels unstable. They may remember your warmth when a new connection feels shallow. They may replay your last calm silence and realize it carried more truth than all the conversations before it. This is why your growth matters so much. Not to make them regret, not to win some invisible battle, but because your growth becomes proof that pain can be turned into power, and that proof changes the story. It says, I did not need you to choose me in order to become more myself. I did not need closure from you to create peace within me. I did not need your return to move forward. Keep watching, because that kind of emotional independence is not just attractive, it is unforgettable. It becomes the thing they think about when they realize too late that they lost someone who could have loved them well if only they had known how to receive it. Still, it is important to understand something clearly. An avoidant missing you does not automatically mean they are ready for healthy love. Longing is not the same as growth. Regret is not the same as accountability. Thinking about you at night is not the same as showing up with emotional maturity in the daylight. And that truth matters because many people get pulled back into old cycles by confusing someone's pain with their healing. Yes, your absence can wake them up. Yes, it can make them feel the loss more deeply than they ever expected. But feelings alone do not build safe relationships. Effort does, honesty does, consistency does, emotional responsibility does. That is why your strongest position is still the same. Protect your peace. If they return, let actions speak. If they miss you, let that be theirs to process. If they finally understand what you meant to them, let them meet that understanding with change, not just words, because your lesson was never about making them suffer. It was about no longer suffering in silence for a connection that kept asking you to carry all the emotional weight. And that lesson is sacred. You paid for it with tears, confusion, patience, and nights spent trying to understand what was never yours to fix. So do not give up your peace just because their loneliness finally found a voice. Stay grounded here. This matters more than ever. Your healing is not a performance. It is a return to your value, a return to your body, a return to your truth. And anyone who wants access to that peace must now come with more than longing. They must come with readiness. Because in the end, what stays with them most is not only your beauty, your loyalty, or your kindness. It is the fact that you loved deeply and still knew when to step back. It is the fact that you did not need to destroy yourself to prove your love. It is the fact that when the moment came, you chose truth over fantasy, peace over pursuit, and self-respect over emotional crumbs. That is what becomes unforgettable. That is what plays in their mind when life slows down enough for honesty to enter. They remember the woman who cared without controlling, who stayed soft without becoming weak, who walked away without hate, and who left behind a silence strong enough to change the whole story. That kind of presence does not vanish easily. It becomes a reference point, a quiet standard, a memory that rises when they least expect it. And maybe that is why they fall harder after you let go. Not because love suddenly became simple for them, not because they instantly became who you needed, but because for the first time they felt what it means to lose something real, something calm, something rare, something they thought would remain available, no matter how far they drifted. And by the time they understand the value of that peace, you may already be somewhere else emotionally, stronger, clearer, lighter. If this speaks to your story, hold on to this truth. Letting go was not your weakness. It was your turning point. Your silence was not empty, it was full of self-respect, and your peace was never small. It was the very thing that changed everything after you were gone.